There is a version of you that exists just beyond the veil, a shadow self, a mirrored echo, a parallel iteration moving through time in a dance of infinite possibilities. This is not mere speculation, nor is it science fiction. It is an unspoken truth buried beneath the noise of ordinary life, waiting for the moment when you finally pause, when you quiet the mind long enough to hear the whisper from the other side. A parallel version of you is trying to contact you. Don't ignore this. What if the déjà vu that flickers at the edges of your awareness is not a glitch in memory, but a ripple from another timeline? What if the dreams that linger upon waking, vivid yet just out of reach, are not random firings of the subconscious, but messages from a self that exists elsewhere? The universe is not a singular, linear path. It is a vast, breathing tapestry of probabilities, and you, every version of you, is woven into its design. The illusion of separation. We are taught to believe in a fixed reality, a single, unbroken thread of existence where choices are final and paths are irreversible. But what if this is the grand illusion? Quantum physics whispers of superposition, of particles existing in multiple states until observed. Ancient mystics spoke of the multiverse long before modern science dared to entertain the idea. The Vedas describe countless lokas, realms. The Kabbalists map the tree of life branching into infinite dimensions, and indigenous shamans traverse alternate realities in trance. The evidence is not hidden. It is simply ignored by those too afraid to question the nature of their own existence. And yet, somewhere in the silence between thoughts, in the uncanny synchronicities that defy logic, in the sudden knowing that arises without explanation, something is reaching out. A version of you, perhaps wiser, perhaps freer, perhaps still struggling but desperate to guide you, is sending signals across the fabric of space-time. The language of parallel selves. How does this other you communicate? Not in words, not in letters, but in the silent language of symbols, sensations, and sudden realizations. A song that plays at the exact moment you need to hear it. A stranger who speaks a phrase only you would understand. A book that falls open to a page containing the answer you've been seeking. These are not coincidences, they are cosmic breadcrumbs, left by a self that has walked the path before you. Some call it intuition. Others call it the higher self, the oversoul, the quantum echo. But what if it is something even more intimate? What if it is you, not as a spirit guide, not as an abstract force, but as a living, breathing consciousness in another strand of reality, trying to merge with your awareness before a critical juncture in your life? The urgency of the call. But why would this parallel self choose this moment to reach across the divide? Perhaps because you stand at a crossroads, one where the slightest nudge could alter the trajectory of your entire existence. Perhaps because in another timeline, you made a choice that led to suffering, and this version of you is determined to steer you away from the same fate. Or perhaps because, in some distant reality, you have already broken free from the illusions that still bind you here, and that liberated self is extending a hand, whispering, "Remember, wake up." To ignore these signs is to remain asleep in the dream of separation. But to listen, to truly listen, is to step into a reality where you are no longer alone, where every choice is supported by the wisdom of 1,000 versions of yourself, all converging toward the same awakening. The journey ahead. This is not a passive revelation. It is an invitation to engage, to decode, to step beyond the confines of what you've been told is real. In the sections that follow, we will unravel the core themes of this phenomenon, explore the deeper symbolic narratives that give it meaning, and finally, learn how to integrate this knowledge into the tangible world, because understanding is only the first step. The true transformation begins when you act on what you discover. But first, you must ask yourself, are you ready to listen? The idea that a parallel version of yourself is attempting communication shatters the illusion of a singular, isolated existence. It suggests something far more fluid, an interconnected web of selves, each pulsing with its own experiences, yet bound by an invisible thread of shared consciousness. To grasp the magnitude of this phenomenon, we must first explore its foundational pillars: the nature of parallel selves, the mechanics of cross-dimensional communication, and the urgent question of why this connection is surfacing now. The multiverse of you. You are not one. You are many. This is not metaphor, but a radical reimagining of identity. Quantum physics posits that every decision spawns branching realities, infinite variations where every possible outcome unfolds. Mysticism echoes this. The Hindu concept of Leela, divine play, frames existence as an endless drama of selves, while Hermetic teachings declare, as above, so below, as within, so without. Your parallel selves are not distant strangers. They are you, alternate expressions of the same core consciousness, shaped by different choices, traumas, and triumphs. Some versions may be nearly identical to your current life, diverging only in subtle ways. Others may live in radically different worlds, some advanced, some archaic, some where you never existed at all. Yet all of them share a fundamental resonance with this you, the one reading these words. The mechanics of contact. How does a version of you from another timeline pierce the veil? The answer lies in the liminal spaces, the cracks in reality where dimensions bleed into one another. Synchronicities, those eerie coincidences, repeating numbers, chance encounters, déjà vu, are not random. They are alignment points where parallel realities briefly intersect. Dreams, during sleep, the brain's filters weaken, allowing impressions from other selves to surface as vivid, often cryptic visions. Intuitive downloads, sudden knowings, creative inspirations, or inexplicable urges may be transmissions from a more awakened version of you. Emotional echoes, unexplained sorrow, joy, or dread could be the emotional residue of a parallel self's experience bleeding into your awareness. These are not hallucinations. They are the universe's way of showing you that the boundaries between you and other you are far thinner than you've been led to believe. The crisis point theory. There are moments in a soul's journey when the walls between dimensions grow fragile. These are often periods of profound transition, a breakup, career shift, spiritual awakening, or near-death experience can act as a doorway. Unresolved karma, a past life or parallel life trauma, may be seeking resolution through your current choices. Collective shifts. As humanity undergoes a consciousness evolution, more individuals are becoming receptive to multidimensional contact. A version of you may be reaching out because it needs your help as much as you need its wisdom. Perhaps in its timeline, a critical mistake was made, one that you can still avoid. Or perhaps it has achieved something extraordinary, and its success is meant to inspire your next step. The illusion of linear time. Time is not a straight line. It is a spiral, a mosaic, a hall of mirrors where past, present, and future selves exchange information freely. Indigenous cultures understood this. The Aboriginal concept of dream time, the Mayan cyclical calendars, even Einstein's relativity all hint at time's fluidity. This means your parallel self isn't just another you in a different world. Might be a past version, screaming warnings from a moment where everything went wrong. A future self, sending back blueprints for a destiny you've yet to step into. A higher dimensional self, the oversoul orchestrating all your incarnations. The contact is happening now because now is the only moment that truly exists, the eternal present where all timelines converge. The fear of merging. Not everyone is ready to accept this truth. The ego clings to the idea of a singular, stable identity. To admit that other versions of you are real is to surrender control, to acknowledge that you are far vaster and far less in charge than you've ever imagined. But the parallel selves are not here to usurp you. They are here to integrate. Just as a tree's roots draw nourishment from unseen depths, your other selves offer strengths you've forgotten, wisdom you've buried, and courage you've yet to claim. There are truths too vast for logic alone to contain. They must be felt, unraveled through myth, metaphor, and the language of symbols that bypass the rational mind to speak directly to the soul. If parallel versions of ourselves are indeed reaching across the divide, then their messages are not delivered in plain speech, but in the ancient tongue of archetypes, dreams, and synchronicities that hum beneath the surface of waking life. The mirror and the labyrinth. Imagine standing before a mirror, only to realize that the reflection does not mimic your movements. It moves of its own volition. At first, this is terrifying. But then, the reflection extends a hand, not to pull you in, but to offer something. A key, a scroll, a single word etched in light. This is the first allegory of parallel contact. The mirror represents the thin boundary between dimensions, and the labyrinth is the journey of recognizing that every other is still you. The key offered is not to escape reality, but to unlock the realization that you are already free. You've only been trapped by the illusion of a singular self. In esoteric traditions, mirrors are portals. The Aztecs used obsidian mirrors for scrying. Ancient Chinese mystics spoke of mirror souls in parallel worlds. When you encounter a version of yourself, whether in dreams, meditation, or fleeting visions, it is not an accident. It is an invitation to step into the labyrinth of your own multiplicity, the library of alternate lives. Close your eyes and envision a vast, infinite library. Each book on the shelves is a chronicle of a life you could have lived, or perhaps are living in another reality. Some volumes are thick, their pages worn from frequent reading, the dominant timelines. Others are slender, their stories cut short by tragedy or redirection. A few glow faintly as if calling to you. This is the Akashic records as described by mystics, but with a twist. These are not just records of your past. They are living texts, constantly being written by every decision, every road not taken. When a parallel self reaches out, it is like one of these books falling from the shelf at your feet, opening to a page you need to see. Perhaps it shows you a moment where you chose fear over love, and the consequences that followed. Perhaps it reveals a path where you embraced your power and the unimaginable beauty that unfolded. These are not hypotheticals. They are echoes of actual lived experiences in the multiverse, and they carry weight. The shadow and the golden self. Carl Jung spoke of the shadow, the repressed, hidden aspects of our psyche. But what if the shadow is not just buried within, but lives in parallel existences? The version of you that made the darker choices, the one that succumbed to despair or cruelty, is not an abstract concept. It is a consciousness, somewhere in the web of time, radiating its pain across the dimensions. Conversely, there is also the golden self, the most enlightened, fulfilled version of you that exists. It is not a distant ideal, but a real being, sending back clues like a cosmic breadcrumb trail. When you feel sudden, unexplainable shame, it may be your shadow self's regret bleeding through. When you experience bursts of inexplicable joy or déjà vu, it may be your golden self whispering, "This way. Keep going." The Bridge of Birds. A Taoist parable tells of two birds perched on opposite branches of the same tree. One bird lives in fear, convinced the sky will collapse. The other sings, knowing the sky is endless. They are the same soul, split by perception. This is the nature of parallel contact. The selves reaching out are not separate from you. They are you, fractured by time and choice but still part of the same whole. The bridge between you is not built of logic, but of symbols. Feathers appearing unexpectedly, a sign you are being guided. Clocks stopping at the same time repeatedly, a nudge that time is not what you think. Recurring animal encounters, messengers from alternate realms. These are not mere coincidences. They are the other birds in your tree, calling you to remember that the sky does not collapse. It expands. The cosmic weavers. Hindu cosmology speaks of the Vishvakarma, the weavers of reality who spin the threads of destiny. Imagine these weavers are not gods, but yourselves, every version of you, across all timelines, collectively stitching the tapestry of existence. When one thread frays, another self tugs to reinforce it. When a pattern grows dull, another sends a burst of color. This is why parallel contact often increases during moments of crisis or transformation. The entire web is adjusting to keep you from unraveling. You are not just a single thread. You are the loom, the weaver, and the tapestry itself. To grasp that parallel versions of yourself are reaching out is one thing, but to engage with this truth is where the real transformation begins. This is not about passive wonder, but active participation in a dialogue across dimensions. The signs are already appearing in your life. The question is, how do you respond? Recognizing the signals. First, you must learn the language of your parallel selves. Their communications rarely arrive as clear visions or voices. Instead, they emerge through synchronicities, repeated numbers, names, or symbols that carry personal meaning. A song that plays at the perfect moment, a stranger who speaks words you needed to hear. These are not coincidences, but deliberate alignments. Dreams, vivid, emotionally charged dreams where you encounter alternate versions of yourself, unfamiliar yet deeply familiar places, or receive cryptic messages. These are often visitations, sudden knowings, a thought, idea, or solution that arrives fully formed, as if downloaded from another source. This is your parallel self sharing wisdom. Bodily sensations, unexplained chills, warmth, pressure, or tingling, especially during meditation or moments of deep reflection, can indicate energetic contact. The key is to notice without forcing. The more you attune to these signals, the stronger the connection becomes. Initiating the dialogue. You are not meant to be a passive receiver. You can actively engage with your parallel selves through deliberate practices. Meditation with intent. Before meditating, set the intention, I invite communication from my highest parallel selves. Pay attention to images, words, or sensations that arise. Journaling across dimensions. Write a letter to a parallel version of yourself. Ask for guidance. Then, switch hands, if right-handed, use your left, and let a response flow without overthinking. Mirror work. Gaze into your own eyes in a dimly lit mirror, a practice used in ancient scrying. Soften your focus and observe if any subtle shifts, expressions, fleeting images appear. Ritual and symbolism. Place objects of personal significance, a stone, a ring, a handwritten note, on your altar or bedside table with the request, let this be a bridge. Notice if any changes occur, temperature shifts, misplaced items, or sudden inspirations tied to the object. Navigating fear and resistance. The ego will resist this work. It thrives on the illusion of a singular, controlled identity. When you begin merging with alternate selves, you may experience existential dread. If there are infinite versions of me, who am I really? Fear of madness. What if I'm just imagining this? Emotional overwhelm, sudden waves of sadness, joy, or anger that don't seem to belong to your current experience. These are not signs you're on the wrong path. They are proof the work is working. The antidote is grounding. Physical anchors. Walk barefoot on earth, submerge hands in water, or hold a heavy stone to remind yourself of the present body. Verbal affirmations. I am safe. All versions of me are welcome. I integrate at my own pace. Creative expression. Draw, dance, or hum. Any act that channels energy out of the mind and into the body. Real-world applications. This is not abstract mysticism. Parallel contact has tangible effects on your daily life. Decision-making. When facing a major choice, ask, what would my most aligned self do? Trust the first answer that comes. Healing trauma. Some wounds are not just from this life. If a fear or pain feels older than your years, it may belong to a parallel version. Address it with, I release what is not mine to carry. Manifestation. Your parallel selves have already lived every possible outcome. To manifest a desired reality, align with the version of you that has already achieved it. The ethics of timelines. With this awareness comes responsibility. If you shift your consciousness, you affect the entire web. Consider healing across realities. When you resolve a trauma in this timeline, you send ripples of relief to all versions of yourself. Avoiding manipulation. Seeking contact for egoic gain, wealth, power over others, risks aligning with lower frequency selves. The intention must be wholeness, not control. Respecting free will. Even in alternate realities, your other selves have their own journeys. You are not to override them, but to collaborate. When contact feels ominous. Not all parallel selves are enlightened. Some may carry unresolved darkness. If communications feel disturbing, set boundaries. I only engage with selves aligned with my highest good. Cleanse your space. Use sound, bells, singing bowls, smoke, sage, Palo Santo, Or visualization, imagining a protective light around you. Seek earthly support. If the experience becomes destabilizing, ground yourself in physical reality. Talk to a trusted friend, therapist, or spiritual advisor. The ultimate invitation. This is not about escaping your current life. It is about expanding it, recognizing that you are not alone, that every choice is supported by the wisdom of 1,000 selves. They are not separate from you. They're you. And they are reaching out because the time for remembering has come. You stand at the threshold of an extraordinary realization. You are not singular. You are legion. The whispers you've dismissed as imagination, the déjà vu you've shrugged off as coincidence, the dreams that linger like half-remembered prophecies, these are not fragments of a disordered mind. They are messages in a bottle, cast across the seas of time and dimension by the most intimate of strangers, yourself. This is not merely a philosophical proposition. It is a call to revolution, a quiet uprising against the illusion of separation that has defined human existence for millennia. The walls between worlds are thinning. The mirrors are beginning to speak. And the question now is not whether these parallel selves exist, but what you will do with the connection. The grand reunion. Imagine for a moment that every significant crossroads in your life, every heartbreak, every leap of faith, every moment you chose one path over another, did not collapse the unchosen possibilities into nothingness. Instead, they branched outward, giving birth to new versions of reality where alternate yous lived out those unchosen fates. Now imagine these selves, your cosmic siblings, have been watching, learning, evolving alongside you all this time. Some are shadows, carrying wounds you narrowly avoided. Others are luminous beings, embodiments of potentials you've yet to claim. And they are all reaching out now because humanity stands at an unprecedented inflection point, a collective quantum leap in consciousness where these parallel connections become not just possible, but necessary for our evolution. The alchemy of integration. To integrate this knowledge is to undergo a sacred alchemy. The death of the singular self, the ego's greatest fear, is its own irrelevance. When you fully grasp that you are a chorus rather than a soloist, the small self panics. Let it. This death makes room for something vaster. The birth of the multidimensional self. Like a tree discovering its root system connects to an entire forest, you begin to draw nourishment from versions of yourself across time. Their wisdom becomes yours, your healing becomes theirs. The emergence of the quantum witness, a new awareness awakens. One that can observe all your parallel paths simultaneously without identifying exclusively with any single thread. This is the seat of true freedom. Your mission, should you choose to accept it. This is not passive knowledge. It demands action. Become a conscious conduit. Start each day with the question, which version of me is leading today? Invite your highest frequency selves to guide your choices. Heal across timelines. When you forgive in this life, you send waves of reconciliation through the multiverse. When you break a destructive pattern here, you liberate countless other yous still trapped in its grip. Build the bridge. Your parallel selves are not just contacting you for nostalgia, they are recruiting you. There is work to do, a reality to co-create, and it requires all hands on deck across dimensions. The ultimate revelation. After all this exploration, here lies the crystalline truth. You were never supposed to do this alone. The loneliness that has haunted humanity, the existential ache of feeling separate, misunderstood, adrift in an uncaring universe, has always been an illusion. Your parallel selves have been with you all along, sending signals through the static of ordinary life, waiting for you to tune into the right frequency. Now that you know, silence is no longer an option. The next time a synchronicity winks at you, the next time a dream leaves you breathless with its symbolism, the next time you feel an inexplicable pull toward a certain path, recognize it for what it is. A hand reaching through the veil. A map drawn in the language of souls. An invitation to step into your full sovereignty as a multidimensional being. Will you take the hand?